quote, I want to incorporate that into service. And then I was like, Terrence McKenna is so great. Why don't we talk more or listen to more Terrence McKenna? So I found the clip of Terrence McKenna talking this. It was an interview that he did in Hawaii at his botanical gardens. For those of you, if you don't know Terrence McKenna, it's very likely that we would not be in the place that we are culturally accepting psilocybin the way that we are were it not for Terrence McKenna. He was an ethnobotanist and just one of the most eloquent speakers on the subject of psychedelics. And so many of his quote unquote predictions are absolutely coming true right now. And he is just a fabulous mind who left the world, I guess, right on time, but sure seems soon because he was pretty young and died of brain cancer when he was pretty young. So anyway, this is about a 10-minute clip that I'm going to play for us. It's really a conversation about drugs and how humanity has misrepresented, misunderstood our relationship with drugs. And as we all sit here expanding our awareness to be reminded that life is a drug experience. This is all chemicals that is have all this stuff that's happening. So anyway, I've talked enough. I'll stop. Let me get Terrence going here. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna have to stop Matt for that. Yes, I gotta share my sound and I gotta go into the YouTube and there is all right. So this is, like I said, it's a 10-minute interview from Terrence. Let me make sure.
Food of the gods. The substances that all through the ages have helped us alter our awareness, our perception of reality. Terrence McKenna is a writer, a speaker, and in fact an activist. And what's your feeling when I say drugs?
Well, drugs is a word which has polluted the well of language. Part of the reason we have a drug problem is because we don't have an intelligent language to talk about substances, plants, psychedelic states of mind, sedative states of mind, states of amphetamine excitation. We can't make sense of the problem and the opportunities offered by substances unless we clean up our language. Drugs is a word that's been used by governments to make it impossible to think creatively about the problem of substances and abuse and availability and so forth and so on.
In the minds of the people, the word drugs, which was once used as healing medications, and still drug companies that make, I don't know, Tylenol are considered very legitimate.
Well,
Yet,
so it's a kind of a paradox, isn't it? Drugs mean that which cures us and the greatest social problem of the generation. So there, right there, you see the schizophrenia involved in thinking about drugs. Apparently there are good drugs sanctioned by science and medicine, and bad drugs used by brown people in strange rites and growing in unusual plants in distant parts of the world. This kind of thinking, because it's naive, leads, of course, to social problems and bad politics and bad social policy.
your stance has been to at least look for what you call those strange plants and strange substances in strange places. You originally were a botanist, or you still are.
Yes, and from the time I was very young, I was fascinated with the idea of extremely dramatic changes in consciousness from which one recovers after a few hours, induced by plants. And I discovered through the writing of Aldous Huxley and other people that this was a worldwide religious and cultural phenomenon that my own Catholic middle-class upbringing had completely overlooked and denied, and I've been fascinated with it ever since. You know, it's a bit like sexuality. It's something which the Calvinist intellect would just prefer didn't exist, but in fact, the phenomenon of being human beings in animal bodies with a relationship to nature makes it important for us to address these altered states of consciousness, and the plants, the substances and the cultural institutions that come into being around these things.
Your thesis in many books has been that these substances have had a far greater influence on culture, and still have and will have, than most people would like to accept or like to see.
Yes, I mean, to my mind, human history is the story of one substance after another distorting or transforming human values and society. A perfect example would be sugar. Most people don't even think of sugar as a drug, and yet we may think cocaine distorted moral and political values in Latin America, but sugar brought back slavery. Slavery actually died with the Roman Empire. Nobody worked agricultural products with slaves in the Middle Ages. It wasn't until the early 1400s that the Portuguese began producing sugar, and they used up Jews and prisoners. And so then they started buying human beings from Arab traders. And the Pope was in on the deal, and everybody was in on the deal. I mean, this is drug corruption of the central institutions of society on a massive scale.
But that has gone on till our days. We have alcohol, we have tobacco.
Well, this is my very point, that every society chooses a small number of substances, no matter how toxic, and enshrines them in its cultural values, then demonizes all other substances, and uses and then persecutes and launches witch hunts against those users whenever some political pretext requires witch hunts and persecutions. So it's an old game, and it's been played in many places. Hopefully, part of the advancement of society toward ideas of universal human rights and that sort of thing, it certainly must include the idea of the universal human right to take responsibility for and to alter your own state of consciousness as you see fit. I don't think we can even pretend that we are on the edge of a civilized dialogue until we grant that people's minds, like their bodies, must be a domain free from government control. In American law, we have the notion of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. If the pursuit of happiness means anything, it must mean the right to use and experiment with substances and plants.
But do we need, say, more research, or do we know all we need to know about entheogens or hallucinogens?
No, we need endless amounts of research. The fact that these things have been illegal in most countries for 50 years means there is a huge lag in understanding the impact of these things on human beings. How many people have taken MDMA, and yet MDMA has not been thoroughly studied by science? How many people have smoked DMT? Same thing. In a way, by making these drugs illegal, we're setting ourselves up for a potential catastrophe someday when some side effect is overlooked because the drugs were not rationally reviewed with an eye not toward keeping them out of the hands of the public, but with an eye toward public safety and educating the public in safe use of these things. The state should not, in the matter of drugs, any more than in the matter of sex, act as the secret agent for the agenda of the church. And that's what's happening. People want to stimulate themselves. They want to explore their consciousness. They want to sedate themselves. Who are we to stand in their way with a moral ideology and the long, heavy arm of the law to interfere with that? It distorts civilized values. But that's the bottom line. Drug repression distorts civilized values and political discourse.
Many people emphasize the bad effects of using, LSD, DMT. Do you think there are positive effects in general, and are there positive effects that are yet to be discovered?
Well, yes. I mean, anyone who has actually been around people using psychedelics know they have tremendous therapeutic potential, tremendous potential to launch people into confrontations with aspects of their personality or their history that they are in denial of. The people who hold that these psychedelic substances have no application have very little actual personal experience with them. It's the old story of my mind is made up, don't confuse me with facts.
Would psychology be further ahead? Would you have learned more about the way the human mind works on itself in an interaction with others if the research, say, on the use of LSD or ibogaine or many of these substances would have proceeded in an orderly and what you could call scientific matter way?
Yes, I think it's a great tragedy of 20th century science that the original excitement about exploring consciousness and mental illness generated by the discovery of LSD gave way to establishment paranoia and repression of drug-using populations. The excitement in psychology when LSD was first introduced was like the excitement in the physics community when the atom was smashed, and everybody thought, well, now we'll understand mental illness, schizophrenia, the memory, so forth and so on. And instead, the government lost its nerve because it saw that these substances have a potential for deprogramming people to institutional values. And that was so terrifying that all the promise for mental illness and creativity studies and so forth and so on was sacrificed to institutional paranoia about the fact that drugs might actually cause people to wake up to some of the abuses and scams that were being run by late modernism and capitalism.
Clear.
You're muted, Eric.
There we go. All right. So, yes, I personally can't think of a better rant from a better person on our 4th of July weekend to stand up for our right to work with these powerful sacraments to become a better version of ourselves. So, thank you all for entertaining me there, or hopefully you found some value in that as well. And if you do find Terrence McKenna interesting, his real valuable conversations are the ones where he's doing giving speeches on stage and being asked questions by the crowd. There's hundreds and hundreds of hours that you can find on YouTube of Terrence McKenna. So with that, Matt, I'll let you go ahead and share the reflection questions for us, and then we will use that as the basis of our conversation today.
All right. You see those now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Please take out your journals and pens for 5 minutes of reflection. McKenna argues that the pursuit of happiness is meaningless if it doesn't include the freedom to alter your own consciousness, that minds, like bodies, should be a domain free from government control. Where in your own life have you accepted a boundary on your inner freedom that you never actually examined or agreed to? He points out that every society enshrines certain substances as acceptable and demonizes others, not based on actual harm, but on who uses them and why. Where else in your life do you notice this same pattern? A freedom you've granted without question, next to one you've had to justify or hide. If you're watching on YouTube, you're welcome to take this moment for reflection as well. You might even share a word or insight in the live stream chat. I'll set my timer for 5 minutes now. It does look like this live stream is working now. If it's not, please let me know. And I will start my timer now. 1 minute remaining. Please begin wrapping up your thoughts.
It's sorry, boy. That got deep for me quick. I hope for some of you as well, or wherever you're at with it. I really invite a lively conversation around this because this is an opportunity to release ourselves from some of the bondage that we may be still under, even when we don't realize it. And that's really what McKenna's conversation here exemplified for me is the broadening awareness of where we are in bondage in ways that we do not realize. And I would really invite all of us who may think we are the most mentally free to really explore and see the little corners and crevices, even where we find ourselves bound by cultural expectations, by familial, by our own expectations. I think all of us like to believe that we are completely non-judgmental. We don't have prejudices. We're unbiased. And yet, if we really explore ourselves, we will see that it is very difficult, if maybe not completely impossible, to utterly eradicate all forms of bias. And whenever we do that, whenever we have a preconceived notion of ourselves or others, we are creating a prison, even for ourselves. And so, again, this is so much of what Terrence's conversation here really stood to represent. And it wasn't even intentional for me, but this was such a powerful reflection that I had this morning in meditation. um, I went to a family Fourth of July party yesterday and saw all my old aunts and uncles. My dad's got 11 brothers and sisters. It's this huge Catholic family, and they are all so opinionated, so opinionated. And I really stopped being in their presence for a few years because their opinions of me were not positive, in large part because of the work that we have done that has been the foundation of Sanctuary. And uh, I heard some comments from my dad yesterday. He told us that he like this is a 70 something year old man, and this is not to criticize anybody here who can't swim, but it was a pool party. And Courtney asked him why he didn't get in the pool, and he said, because I can't swim. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, this guy is in a prison that I didn't even know. I didn't know, I had no idea that he was living in this mental prison for all of his life, not allowing himself the joy of learning how to swim and be in the water and have that sense of freedom. And then it had me reflecting on so much of my life growing up. And as I was sitting in meditation today, it struck me how hard it is for me to embrace joy. Like I have to work really hard to give myself permission to like be happy when something good happens to me. I haven't even celebrated my birthday until Courtney basically started forcing me to, because I was just like, I don't deserve, this is too much. I don't deserve that, right? It's extravagance. But this is all symptomatic of this kind of mental prison that I have been in for most of my life. And it shows up in so many ways. And just like McKenna talked about, where I have allowed myself freedom is very often within the cultural context that allows it. So, I grew up drinking very heavily. That was my freedom, was to go out and do the drugs that they told me I could do, until slowly that ideology started to chip away. But even still, it shows up. I find it in sexuality. McKenna very often relates sexuality and psychedelics or drugs use, and I have long said that the psychedelic community could take some notes from the queer community, and accepting this as part of our identity. That's something that it's really been years and years for me coming to terms with as well, that this is who I am. I am a psychedelic person. That is part of who I am. And it is a freedom that we have to claim back. All these freedoms that we have unknowingly lost or given away, even. We have to actively take them back. And so I would love to have this conversation with you about specific places and opportunities that you have and we each have to reclaim some aspect of our freedom. It's been an ongoing practice for me. It will continue to be. And I think that can be said for all of us. So I would love for us to all just to, put away the potential to perceive ourselves as being ultimately liberated. Yes, there is so much liberation in this community, and I want to give you mad props for showing up continually to a place like this, to a community like this that really thumbs its nose in a lot of ways at everything that, you know, polite society upholds. But we all have so much more that we can grow, and that is such a part of why we come together around the mushroom, because we know that this is a powerful tool that our creator has given us that can help us grow. We are not dependent upon it. We are freed to explore it. So I will leave my thoughts for there at the moment. I do want to just, well, I'll turn it over to you, Matt, to read I don't know where the echo came from. There we go. It's gone. To read through our agreements, and then we'll bring us back into discussion. I'll have just a couple more words before I start inviting people into the conversation. So there you go, Matt. Take it away, brother.
All right. So here are our discussion agreements. We want to welcome everything. We want to check our assumptions. We want to own our experience. We want to reveal our experience, honor self and other, and confidentiality by request.
Thank you. And I believe with that, we'll go ahead and cut the live stream. Bring it